To convert between moles, amount of particles per se atoms and mass in grams, I'm going to go after element carbon. And what you should know about each element is 1 mole of any element, let it be carbon today, 1 mole of any element is equal to 6.02 times 10 to power 23 particles. In this case, carbon is element, so atoms of carbon. Also from the periodic table, it's equal to atomic mass, which is 12.01 grams of carbon per mole. So these three equalities are equal. Not necessarily you need them all, but you need to do that for every element. The first question is how many atoms, so this is my variable, how many atoms x do I have in 0.250 moles? So for this, I'm going to go after the moles of carbon and atoms of carbon. I don't need the last piece of information. So let's just put them equal. If 1 mole of carbon is equal to 6.02 times 10 to power 23 atoms of carbon, then you can put in denominator for them 0.250 moles, which is given. And under the atoms, put your variable x atoms. So we are trying to solve for x. Then we cross multiply. So x times 1 is x is equal to 0.250 multiplied by 6.02. Now use your second EE button and then put your exponent 23, press enter. Your final answer should come to life, which is 1.5. 1 times 10 to power 23 atoms. Don't forget to put the element carbon and box your final answer. The next question related to carbon is what is the mass? So that's my x of 0.350 moles of carbon given. So this time what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the mass and moles, and I put them in front of each other as equality. 1 mole of carbon is equal to 12.01 grams of carbon. Under the mole, I put what's given, 0.350 mole. Under the grams, I'm going to put x, and we are solving for x. Then again, cross multiply. These are simple proportionality. So x is simply equal to 12.01 multiplied by 0.350. So our final answer is 4.20 grams of carbon. I'm also respecting significant figure. That's why we put the last zero as a placement. So 4.20 grams of carbon. Two more questions related to carbon. This one is what is mass in grams of 5 atoms of carbon? So what is the mass? Mass is my variable x. Now for carbon, then again, remember 1 mole of carbon is equal to 12.01 grams of carbon, which is equal to 6.02, or it contains 6.02 times 23 atoms of carbon. I'm interested in mass, and I'm given 5 atoms. So let's just make our proportionality. 6.02 times 10 to power 23 atoms of carbon is equal to 12.01 grams of carbon. So if we are being challenged with 5 atoms, I write it under my atoms, and under mass in grams I put x. When we cross multiply, x is simply equal to 5 times 12.01 divided by 6.02 times 10 to power 23, and your final answer will be 9.98 times 10 to minus 23, extremely small number, grams of carbon. Then again, box your final answer. Last question of this series, how many moles? So that's my variable x in 2.9 grams of carbon. So x equals 2.9 grams of carbon. Now x has units of moles, so I need my mole. So I put 1 mole of carbon is equal to 12.01 grams of carbon. We cross multiply. and X comes to life, which is 0.241 moles of carbon. It's important that you write your units. It's important that you put like units as numerator and denominator so they cancel each other out, and solve for your variable.